Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Evolve with Titans, where I interview the best of the minds out there who have raised the bars and achieved aspiring things in life. My guest today on that note is a true titan. She's a former IAS officer from the batch of 1973, the first woman district collector of Tirchi, and a retired secretary to the Government of India. Someone who has done transformational things in her tenure, like pioneering rainwater harvesting implementation across the state, and so much more noble things in a service that spanned out 50 years to this country. So I welcome Ms. Santha Sheela Nair to this show of Evolve with Titans. Ma'am, super thrilled to have you here today. Ever since I shot you for the 50 Women project, you've given us a everlasting mark on our arts, right? I've been watching, reading about you, and I've seen all the things that you've done. It's just amazing, and it's an honor to have you here. And thank you so much for accepting to do this.
I'm flattered that a person as young as you can find what we did more than half a century ago still something useful and exciting, and it's a privilege to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. See, my first question is in fact in that thing. All the things that you did half a century year old, right? But still, whenever I meet you, whenever I talk to you, right, there is a child in you. There is an excitement. There is an enthusiasm, right, which is very it's very you can immediately feel that it's effervescent, right? So how do you keep that childlike thing in you alive? And also that makes me intrigued, what was your childhood like?
Oh, I don't know. I don't make any special effort to be like a child. I just try to be who I am. Uh, as a child, I was from an army background. I was very brought up in with great discipline and drill, and a lot of very important values about what is right and what is wrong, and how you have to be correct, and how you have to be punctual, and how you have to do your job, and things like that. So that was the kind of upbringing I had. But maybe being an army child, I was able to go all over the country, have this exposure to different people, different walks of life. I didn't know what caste was. I didn't know what religion was till I joined service almost, because it was one big family in the army, and that all that made us perhaps a little uncontaminated people. We didn't grow up with some prejudged values, or some compartmentalization that we put ourselves into, as particularly of this caste or that caste, or being girl or a boy or something like that. So maybe that liberated me in my childhood framework in which I grew up. And I remember always that my elders would always get angry with me, telling me, "You ask too many questions. Why do you ask so many questions?" So maybe from childhood I had that ability to want to know about whatever it was, whether it was important or not important. So that was a quality perhaps I had, that I was always asking about things. And so every day is a new life, it's a new beginning, because you're asking questions all the time. So maybe that's what keeps me from becoming jaded and being in a situation where you don't have any more questions to ask because you know it all. I don't think I'll ever be in that position. I will always be asking for something more and something yet to be known, because that was part of my genes perhaps, or the way I grew up. And maybe that's what makes it look like there's something new all the time, because I keep looking for something new all the time.
So I want to go a little deeper in that, ma'am. We all as kids ask a lot of questions. And then eventually we become adult, we grow up and then stop doing that, right? Was there any incident, or was there anything that your parents did, your teachers did, or something that kept that childlike feature alive in you? Can you attribute it to can you connect it to something?
I can't connect it to anything which I can recall offhand. But I can only say that though people ask me, why do you ask all these questions, nobody really discouraged me. And uh, uh, somehow, because in school and in college, I was always into a lot of extracurricular activities. And there you got the better of your opponents by being ahead, by being one ahead, by knowing something what the opponent didn't know, or in a debating or something like that. So my being involved in activity outside the curricular, being involved in the extracurricular, being involved in social engagement. I was president of the college union, I was a student union leader. All those kind of experiences outside a strictly academic world, within the academic world, a non-academic experience probably helped to keep that spirit alive, because you needed to be always a little better informed, a little more knowledgeable than your peers, to be ahead of them. So maybe that helped. I can't think of any particular incident or person who put me along those grooves, but there have been teachers and definitely my parents who have inspired me to continue to seek the new, to seek what is unusual, what is not known. Uh, so which should have made me a great scientist and a Nobel Prize winner, but that didn't happen. I became a dull bureaucrat. So it's not necessary that it can lead you exactly where it should have, but well, that is the background.
But how did your all these things, all these extracurricular activities and all that lead you to the bureaucrat, when so many people, it was not the choice of so many people, right? Especially women those days, 1973. Um, what made you pick up this?
Actually, that isn't quite true, because the first woman who came into the Indian Administrative Service came into the service almost in the year of my birth. So it was a good one generation before me.
1953.
1951, Anna George was the first woman in the
Yeah.
Indian Civil Service. And 50, I was born 51, she had become an IAS officer already. And what her journey must have been and what challenges must have been for her is phenomenal, because she was the first woman. I believe that, I'm not sure if the story is true, but I don't know because I never asked her. But the story said about her and what we remember as folklore among other women officers who came after her, a generation after her, is that she was asked in the interview, she was told in the interview that, you're the first woman we are considering for this service, and you carry a huge burden on your shoulders. The future of Indian women will depend on how you perform. I believe she turned around and asked, did you ask that of the first man you recruited? I mean, did you place such a burden on his head? Why do you want to single me out? That was the kind of spirit of, equality, of not being weighed down by your gender in any sense. So it was a long while before my generation that she had already gone through all these struggles. And given the kind of personality I had developed into, from my family to everybody around me, was telling me civil service is appropriate for you. Not so much for the civil service, at the thought of competition and a competitive exam, and you have the spirit in you to fight a competitive exam. And in fact, it's very interesting. When I was in college, I was the president of the college union. It was a government college. I was in Queen Mary's College. Nedunjayan was the education minister in the then DMK government when Anna was the CM. And he came to our college for the college day function. And he told my principal, when he saw me, I did the welcome or whatever. I was the president of the college union. The college principal, who was Dr. Airavati, was a very famous educationist. She was from the London School of Economics. A great, those were stalwarts of those times. He told her, and she told me this. He told her, this girl can become an IAS officer.
Really?
Yeah, he said that, I believe. And I didn't serve under him, but later I joined in the government where he was the minister.
Wow.
So, there was always this thing that people would look at me and say, you're the right material for this kind of thing. At one time, I became a bit of an activist, kind of, getting involved in a lot of socially concerned issues. And then I remember my family people saying, "Oh, you want to become a Naxalite? Don't go into that stream. You can do more good for people by getting into the civil service." So it was not a surprise at all that I eventually joined the civil service. Somewhere along the way, I had developed an interest in law, and I thought it would be great to be a successful lawyer, and because I loved the logical mind and the capacity to deduce things from reasoning and all that. But then everybody talked me out of it, saying it's not like getting into a civil service. You have to struggle very hard, and if you don't have a mentor and you don't have a family lawyer business kind of thing, where do you start, and where will you get your leads? And anyway, that it didn't come to much. Just a flicker in my teenage years, or at least at the time when I was finishing college, that should I do law? But then I didn't. I never did it.
I'm going to shift the gears and talk about something very random from what we were talking. So every time I go to a temple, right, one of the things that fascinates me is the work there. So obviously, somebody sitting in the throne gives an order saying, "Hey, build a temple," and then it goes through multiple layers of people, and then comes to this last Stapati who is building the temple. But some amazing stuff's happened there, right? Like super creative stuff's happened there. But as an entrepreneur, when sitting at the top and giving a project, right, what happens? It goes down the line and then becomes from 100%, it becomes this 10%. What we thought in our mind has become actually 10% of what we wanted, right? Um, and I can relate that with you, where you would have had so many ideas because the person you are like full of ideas, and then when your idea trickles down this chain of people and then gets down to the execution, what happens, and then how did you manage this?
Actually, the only thing I can give us a bit of advice is to know that what you're conceptualizing is not what you may get, and not to be put off by that.
Okay, so to acknowledge that.
To know that right from the beginning.
Okay.
This is what I am conceptualizing, and that the end product may not be what I am now conceptualizing. So you're ready not to be disappointed. You're ready to acknowledge something else from what you have conceptualized. And two things. One is it sometimes is not exactly what you wanted, but sometimes it's better. It can be a better product because so many more minds have gone into it. And sometimes the field person who's actually executing has a better sense of it than you have as a theoretician sitting above. And I have been amazed by the wonderful results sometimes we've had of something that you thought of in the rarefied atmosphere of a secretariat or an air-conditioned room, and then finally in a village when somebody is doing it, sometimes it's much more beautiful, it's much more relevant, it's much more practical. And I have often had lessons to learn from what was the end product.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So another thing is, as a creative person working with a lot of government projects and all that, there's always this need to do something in some way which is being done for years together, right? And there's always this conformity versus creativity. Like how do we strike a balance? Like how was it for you in some cases to strike a balance between these?
That is actually that balance. Personally, I don't worry myself too much about striking the balance. I, I, I don't limit myself by saying I must strike a balance.
Okay.
I try to think, well, if the balance is not there, so be it. I will do something without a balance and see how far I can take it. Because sometimes by trying to balance too much, not always, but sometimes you lose it all.
Yeah.
You compromise. and then you don't get anywhere. Finally, you're neither that party or this party. So if you are passionate about something and are convinced about something, I don't think striking a balance is what the bureaucracy wants and what establishment wants, that you strike a balance. They're always telling you, you bend, don't break. Better to bend, but don't break. That's the advice I got a lot from my seniors. You're so difficult to deal with, and whatever. You bend a little, don't break. You don't stand too straight and don't break, but bend. That way you get along with everybody. Somehow I have never liked that advice very much. I'd rather bend, or I'd rather not bend or break or whatever, but it helps to have a focus and not let it be limited by the need for balance. Because if you are bothered more about the balance, then you lose your focus. You take your focus along, and somewhere along the line, maybe a few adjustments here and there you need to make. But if you lose sight of that focus, then you lose it all. You lose the plot. Then you're lost in balances, and then the plot is no longer there. This is my
Oh, this is a great advice.
yeah, this
I
is
can
my
relate
own
it to-
advice, and that's the only way you can go ahead and make sure that some things do get done. Because if you are in the business of pleasing everybody and making sure that you must take, in an organization, it's different. When you're dealing with human relations, it's different. You must take along everybody with you, and as the head of an organization, there will be many opinions, and you must be that sounding board where everybody can give their opinion. That's a different thing. But if you have a project, if you want something to be done, a policy, something to be done, you have to be focused and push it all the way, and not be swayed by the fact that do I must build a balance. Let that not. It can be, if you can have a balance, fine. But if you can't, you just go ahead with what you do, and perhaps that's the only way to make it get done.
True.
This is what I
This is
feel.
very, very strong, and this is very deep for me, because I am working on a couple of things where this I can totally get and I can totally relate to.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you feel strongly about something, you can be as nice as you can be as charming as you want, but don't give up. And say, I agree with you totally, but this little point, maybe we should continue to do what we are doing or whatever, and let us see the end result. You have to push your way nicely at some time. If you're the boss, aggressively. If you're not the boss, then in a supplicant way, or whatever way, in some diplomatic way, if you want to get your. But if you lose that focus, then you're compromising on what you wanted to do, and then the end product will not be what you like or what you wanted.
so one of the things I noticed last time also and this time also is that you're a morning person.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a morning person too, and I love my mornings.
Okay.
I have a ritual in my morning. I go to the beach, take a walk, exercise, and do some yoga and come back. Right? I love my mornings. This is also something that many successful people do. They really use their mornings, right? Like how is this morning person habit has helped you in your endeavor, and what are the things that you do on as a ritual? Like before coming, you went to the temple and came. What are the rituals that you unconsciously or consciously followed that helped in your life, in your journey?
See, first of all, the morning is always a quiet time, and if you are a morning person and if you've had enough of rest, if you can't obviously be a morning person if you go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, but if you go reasonably early to bed and you are a morning person, uh, you'll get used to the fact that your whole being is far more alert in the morning, in terms of its capacity to absorb everything in the universe, in the sense that the total quiet, and the pristine nature of the morning air is something in which your thoughts become very clear. your thinking process is much clearer because you don't hear a car horn and you don't hear the milkman and you don't hear the morning noises, which are quite distracting. And you have a moment of absolute peace, and you don't need to consciously meditate. And in our Shastra, they talk about the Brahma Muhurta. That is a very pure hour, in which uh, I don't know whether I should put it in this. Your spirit communes better. The vapors in the universe help you to commune better. There are lesser distractions. That is one beautiful part of the morning. And well before sunrise, if you watch the sunrise coming, all those energies which come with an early morning sunrise are all yours. It's nothing like that in the evening. Everything is dying in the evening. Nothing is growing in the evening. You can watch a beautiful sunset, no doubt, but there's nothing like the morning rays rejuvenating and the birds coming out and the whole nature waking up and all that. So that's a beautiful experience to know. That's one thing. Your mind is clearer. You can think thoughts. A lot of things I think through in the morning and walking. If something was bothering me or something which I need to do. What do I do today? All these things are clear in my mind because I'm not getting distracted at all. This is one point. And in my working life, I always went to office a good 1 hour before the expected time. That had a huge impact on all my co-workers because they always knew that the boss is there 1 hour before them. So in a way, it helped to bring a lot of discipline and punctuality into the system. One thing was that I tried hard not to sit up late and work late. A lot of people, have their claim to fame by saying, I sat till 10 o'clock in the office. And, why should you sit till 10 o'clock in the office? If you start at 8 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours before, 2 hours before if you start work, at 10 o'clock in the office, you start at 8 o'clock. 2 solid hours you have with no interference at all. No phone calls, no meetings, nobody is bothering you with this or that. But in the evening, everybody is bothering you. You can't give enough attention to your job. So all the difficult files, all the difficult decisions that I had to make, I just keep it over for the morning. My file was never delayed. My file went back the next day by 10 o'clock. It's available. Not one file I had to. This I developed over a period of time. In the corporation, I had to take files home. But even as home secretary, I did not take files home. I would keep it and see it in the morning between 8 and 9. My first meeting was always at 9 o'clock, 1 hour before the office time. So 8 to 9, I had this perfect, wonderful time where if I had to pass a judgment, if I had to pass an order, if I had to write something. And I planned it for my personal staff that they would come for the morning shift man comes at 8 o'clock and goes off at 12 o'clock. And the afternoon shift comes and he can go off at 5 o'clock. So it helped me a lot throughout my career that I was a morning person. My best output came out in the morning. I got 2 hours of extra good quality work, both in terms of teamwork and my personal work between 8 and 10 when offices start. And I never bothered people by making myself sit late, and the poor women and all that sitting till 7, 8, they can't get a bus home, they can't go home, they sit and curse and they keep getting calls from their home saying, "Eppo varinga, eppo varinga." All this. So on the whole, everybody was happier, except there was, the late morning people and the late afternoon people used to have a look of unslept untidiness about them when they came for the morning meeting because they had not fully woken up. But then I think on the whole it was a good experience. And in fact, one of my colleagues, I don't want to take names and all that, I used to be when I was doing the rainwater harvesting work for the state, almost a year every day, every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I used to have the rainwater harvesting meeting. And everybody had to come. 9:05, my doors were closed. If you didn't come in at 9:05, you were absent. That was all. And they knew that I was there before them, long before them. There was no question of waiting for me to come and all. Anyway, and that was such a wonderful thing. We used to finish also by 10, 1 hour. That also I didn't believe in long, extended meetings, going on and on. I rarely gave coffee and tea in my meetings. They would say, "Madam, saagaram, thanni kuda kodukka maatinga." I said, "Setta chintidupa, paravailla. You come for a meeting, we'll finish the meeting. I'll let you off in time. You go and take your coffee outside, whatever."
So, like having a ritual for yourself where you are having a commune with yourselves, right? Um, and then starting your day. Has that in any way helped you?
Yeah, it is a time when, especially after the puja, which is a short puja, and the yoga, I walk. Even in the house, I walk up and down. That's a time when I sort out a lot of things in my mind of what was the previous day and what is the next day, what do we need to do today. All that, while you're walking, the tedium of walking is no longer there. I don't feel I'm walking because I'm thinking all this, and it's a nice way to do it. If you sit down, you will doze off, or you become lazy. But if you're walking, that energy is still there, and you can process many things in your mind as you're walking. Evening walk also I like. I take a walk on the terrace at sunset, and it's beautiful to see the sunset, even though the sun is setting away from the sea. But sometimes the most amazing sunsets you get just over St. Thomas Mount, and that's also a time when I process a lot in my mind. On the terrace, it's beautiful because
I can relate to it because I watch sunrise almost every day. And then it's like for me as a creative person, it's like somebody sitting there and painting it every day.
Yeah.
Like so differently. Not one day is
the same as the previous day.
It's like how can somebody be so creative, right? Like,
yeah.
And then you figure out, oh my God, nature is the master of creativity.
No, I don't see the sunrise as much as I see the sunset, the beauty of the, and that from the terrace, you get this whole canvas.
It is a canvas. Were you happy with all the things, like, because there's continuous accomplishments, right? Like, if in my mind, I'm thinking if you are happy and content with one thing that you did, you would have not done the other things, right? So were you happy when you accomplished these things?
Actually, at the end of the day, though I was happy, I was not. Uh, I always felt it was an incomplete job. There was more that could have been done.
In every project?
Yeah, in every project. And then sometimes I have felt very sorry that people who came after me or things that happened after me dumped what I had done. And it was back to square one, and the whole thing was lost. And as all those are, very cruel on your mind and your psyche. You work so hard for it, and after that it's just gone to smithereens and there's nothing left of it.
How do you get up?
And then now that I have lived so long, there comes a day when it comes back. You never know, out of the blue. I was just telling you the story about this rainwater harvesting meeting that I was taking. 20 years later, that was in 2001, this is 2022. The present secretary, when I called him to say, he was one of my junior colleagues at that time, he said, "Ma'am, I've started your 9 o'clock meeting again."
Oh.
I thought this is wonderful. In small ways, every time thing has its own time frame. Something happens much later where it's made up for all that you lost in between. So you have not lived that long, so you don't know. So you don't ever give up. Don't know, maybe 20 years later, 30 years later, you suddenly see that it's come back, and in some way it's perhaps a better version of what you wanted. So there have been times when I've been very, very sad with the way things went after I left a particular place or stuff. But then many years later, அதுக்குன்னு ஒரு ஜாதகம், it has a momentum of its own. It comes into being at a particular time, not when you desired it, but when its time was due. Sometimes many things that you do are things that you are doing before the time, and the time has not come, and you're struggling against it. Maybe you've sown the seeds, but you won't see the crop. The crop will harvest at its time, when the sun is ripe and when the time is ripe, and that time you will see that what seed you sowed then is coming into fruition, and you have to wait and hope that you have the luck to see it. That's all.
Ma'am, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to ask you and put you in a spot. If you were to write an autobiography, or if somebody has to write a biography of you, what will be the title of the book, or what will be the central core theme of the book?
Actually, I can't write a book now because the present government has said that without the prior permission of the government, we cannot write our books or professional experiences. And as I was telling Ashik, they have amended the pension rules that if you do so, then your pension will be cut. And I live only on my pension, so I am not taking the risk of writing my biography at this point of time. Anyway, I don't know. I have never thought of a title for a book because I never thought of writing a book. And I always think, whatever said and done, every bureaucrat has a story to tell. And somewhere, every bureaucrat thinks that he should write a book because his story is the greatest. And I don't want to be in that category. What I would like is, to share my experiences of individual projects. Of how did we get this done, or what were the pitfalls and what happened, and what do you look out for. I would love to share those kind of things. At one time, I thought of doing a series of lectures on different aspects of management, in a sense, because even government service is management.
If you get it ready, we'll film it for you.
No, I haven't done it yet. I was just thinking.
It's a great thing, ma'am.
Instead of writing a book and making it something that somebody may read or not read, and then you have a big launch for the book and somebody talks about it for a time. I don't know. I have no problem with those who have written books. I was thinking that I would like more than the book type of communication, a direct communication, where I see the audience in front of me. I respond to their questions. I give them my view of what happened, and then I feel that there is an instant utilization of my experience or whatever I wanted to say.
True.
A book may just get lost in time. I don't know. A lot of people write books, and people have been repeating me. Even my old professor keeps saying, no, books are books, and it's different from a lecture, and they remain forever in print and all that.
But I think you should definitely spend some time and get the lectures ready.
Yeah, something like that I was thinking of, but then I need somebody to tell me, to give me a specific platform, to say, you come and do this 10 lectures or whatever. And
YouTube is an amazing platform.
YouTube is the kind of thing, again, it's like a book, it gets lost in the wilderness. I'm an older generation. I don't like the screen as much. I like your real face. So because in my time, even in a debate or a college event, the expression of the people in front of you made a difference to what you said. You didn't speak to an empty camera. And imagine that, even I used to even act in college plays and all that. At that time, a twitter, a whisper, a chuckle would make a difference to the way you portray yourself. And without that interaction, it's meaningless. It's a frozen desert, It's
Do you read books?
I do, but of late I'm not so much because I have some eye problems. My vision is not all that great. I can't read for a long time.
But do you have any favorite books that you always recommend to people?
I always do. I have been, I think last time also I talked about it. Of course, being a woman, the role and the gender-related reference to everything around us is something that most people ask about. Being a woman, how did you do this, whatever. And to that extent, the books that influenced me while I was growing up were, there was a famous book called Marriage and Morals by Bertrand Russell. He's a very famous philosopher. It's a very old time, it's not new time writing. And that gave a perspective on how gender differences arose and what was the civilizational background of how genders got frozen into certain type of stereotypes. That was a wonderful understanding of society as a whole in terms of gender. The other of my favorite books is one by, what's her name? It is called The Female Eunuch. But Germaine Greer was a great feminist. A lot of controversy on what she wrote, and then her subsequent books on which she tried to defend what she was saying. But this whole question of gender and your status in society, in economy, in social circumstances, that gives you a kind of framework for the kind of personality that you become. So these books influenced me, besides, of course, a lot of other stuff.
Did you read these books before your, during your career or before?
No, I think most of my very good reading was in my college days. And after that, after that I started reading more on the subjects which I was dealing with. So if it was water, then I read up a lot about water and or sanitation or any other subject, agriculture, whatever. Then you tend to read literature on that because you want to be current, whether it's policy making or anything. Then there is no time for doing general reading.
And when we think of social responsible acts, right, we always think of NGOs, a governmental body, or some rich philanthropist, and all that, right? So, how important do you think it is to be socially responsible for creative people or young entrepreneurs? And what will be your advice to them?
See, social responsibility is something that you have to become aware right from your school days. I think in our schooling, in our school campuses, of course, the Right to Education Act and all that is trying to bring a mix of people into the schools. But then again, we are told that there's so much abuse of it, and children being demarcated according to their economic status, even though they have come, a lot of things like that. But if our educational institutions can create a society of engaging with everybody, with all your classmates, with all your schoolmates, irrespective of their backgrounds, and where you were not allowed to flaunt what you came from, but you were really valued for your own merit. In many of the educational institutions, if you have your parents have made a big donation or you put up a school building or something, then maybe you are treated a little differently, or you're a favorite student or something. But if you were valued always for your academic work or some other work, this is one part of it. And from school itself, if they cultivate the habit of doing some social work, in the neighborhood, just going and collecting garbage, collecting paper from the beach, even that can be something that they are exposed to that. This whole question of cleanliness, the civic awareness. When we were in school, we had a class called civics.
Yeah.
We had a class called civics. We had a class called moral instruction. These were all part of the syllabus. And civics was a very important class. We were taught about your civic responsibilities. Now, when we are grown-up adults, we are only asking about civic rights. What have I not got? I am paying tax. Why didn't I get this? Why didn't I get that? What's my responsibility? I am asked to segregate garbage. I think it's not my responsibility. I am paying you to take out my garbage whether I segregate or not. No. It is my responsibility that I will say. It is my responsibility that I won't throw chocolate paper on the road. This should come from childhood. Once it is ingrained in your personality that you have a certain civic responsibility, civic will translate to state level, national level, country level awareness, and the pride in your city, in your locality, in your country, and all that contributes to giving back to your society. Not to think only of yourself and go and make it good somewhere and to hell with the rest of them. Maybe I give some money here and there, and that's my responsibility. But to engage with your community, to engage with people around you, to go to a neighboring, economically weaker one child, that lovely program they had, each child teach a child or something like that. And the Mariella, if you get engaged in this kind of things, you become a much better citizen as you go along, and you don't end up all the time fighting for rights and fighting for what you did not get, but also saying, what did I do? What was I supposed to do? Am I doing my bit? uh, it's not in a very I don't want to say it in a very condescending way, but this thing should come from the school, and then definitely in college. There was a very good program called the National Service Scheme, NSS program. அது என்ன ஆச்சுன்னே தெரியல. Now the NCC is trying to become more of an NSS kind of thing. NCC is also, some bit of army training is also very good, because you learn drill, you learn discipline, you learn to be smart, physically fit. It's very important to be physically fit. You can't be mentally super without being physically fit. All those things will contribute to being a more wholesome citizen, and I think it should come right from the. Then it will last through your life. It is not something that will go away the moment you turn 60 and you're a retired person, you suddenly switch off. It is gone, will come to you from your childhood, it will go to you with you till your grave. It will be there always with you. So I think that is something that we need to put a lot more of emphasis on.
Awesome. This is amazing. This is awesome. Many of the things that we keep talking about in our office. So it's very nice. Every answer of your question is going to be a separate video.
I don't know. I hope so.
So, do you have any questions for me?
My question to you is, why do you do what you do? What inspired you?
Oh, so quite honestly, every day I have this thought in my mind that I always think, yeah, I could have been something else. Like I could have been a carpenter, I could have been a plumber, I could have been a software engineer. In fact, I was a software engineer. I was working in IT for 7 years, and I would have been in a cabin doing some coding or writing some requirement document or something now. But suddenly, so many things changed. Everything came together, and this universe made me a photographer. And photography, as an art form itself, is intrinsically very. It's amazing, right? You're constantly looking visually attractive things, visually beautiful things. It's very meditative and it's very nice. So the universe in some way wanted me to do something, right? There was a purpose behind this pushing me into photography. So what is that purpose? What can I do with what I've got surprisingly or accidentally is a question that I ask constantly. So what can I do with it? What can I do with it? So I do all the things that I do.
Yeah, people like you are inspiration for us, because we never had the talent for the creativity that you have, and we have picked on people like you, picked your brains, and perhaps patted ourselves in the back on the basis of what you have created. But it's a God-given gift to be creative. The supreme maker of the universe is the original creator.
Yeah.
And if you have inherited some part of that creativity, it is definitely something very special. And any of us can become a successful bureaucrat, and successful bureaucrat can be defined in many, many ways. But very few can be successful creative artists, and thrive in the creative arena. So this is something that we look up to you people to
thank you so
give us that precious product which we are not able to create, and we can only be people who will bring your product to the world. We can contribute to
glad to be of some help.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you so much.
the thing that you need to do, you asked about children's education and all that, is also from right from childhood to bring that sensitivity, sensitivity towards the arts, towards you don't have to be an artist yourself, but you can learn to know what is art or what is how to appreciate art, not in an art critic kind of way, but go to a museum and see the paintings and like it, or try to understand it. Now, when we were in school and all, we were taken to the museums. We were taken to places of creative work and exposed to it. We were not given any lectures or anything, but some sensitivity goes into your mind. Now I don't think any of those things are there. People,
Happening.
you don't see, in the Egmore Museum, hordes of us children will be there seeing the things in the Egmore Museum. You choose to be more children from schools than regular people, adult people coming to the museum. But all this improved our sensitization to history, to folk art, to literature, to all these things. And that helps us, irrespective of the career we go into, whether it's a corporate career or a civil service career, to nurture those with creative talent who don't have that framework, who are struggling and who need sponsorship and patronage. So it helps to, for the whole population to have a sensitivity to nurture creativity when they can't do it themselves.
Ma'am, thank you so much. It's wonderful. We just can keep on going on and on and on.
Yeah, you don't. It's very difficult to shut me up.
No, not like that. Because there are so many things. Because you have seen so many things, and you have experienced so many things. So it was wonderful. It was very deep, and I personally could connect and relate and take away a lot of things from this conversation. So thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you, Amar. It has been a pleasure, and I don't feel like it's a formal chat and you're interviewing me. I just feel like we are enjoying a nice after lunch conversation,
Yeah, thank you so much.
So it's been
I'm
very
gonna
pleasant.
invite myself for a lunch with you.
Sure, sure. You take a rain check on it anytime, certainly.
Awesome, ma'am. Super.
Anyway, thank you very much. It has been a very nice experience and very satisfying to me also to be able to share my experiences with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.